So if you're starting your journey to Costa Rica and you're trying to figure out how much does living in Costa Rica actually cost, yeah, it is a good question, but is it the right one? So I see this all the time on various different forums that people are asking the question, how much does it cost to live in Costa Rica? Well, let me answer your question with the question. How much does it cost to live in the United States? Well, you would say, well, it depends on where you live. Exactly. The cost is going to depend in the United States, whether you live in New York, California, Ohio, or any other place in between. And so the same thing happens in Costa Rica. And location is actually only one factor. There are other factors that you have to consider. And so this is something that we're going to dive in today, where are you starting at the right place? Do you have your principles in order? Let's jump in. So let's start with principles instead of location. In the United States, we have been trained a certain way. And so it's buy your house, get 2 cars or a car for each member of the family, have as many televisions as possible, and always keep updated on the new and latest greatest thing. But when you try to bring that here and that ideal and ideology here to Costa Rica, then you find out that your budget is really astronomical. And if you don't know that, you will find out sooner or later. So how do you fix this? Well, it's by changing that first principle. This is one of the first principles that you actually want to change before you even get here. And you want to have that set up while you're here, which is that more is not always better. Actually, in this particular case, especially when you're finding a home base, you want to think less is more. What can you have less and actually have more of a better quality of life? Again, this goes back to your why, because without a clear why, then you kind of lose your way. You end up buying things and you're like, oh, I'm supposed to just be exploring, but oh, I need all this, I need all that. And Costa Rica becomes very expensive at that point, especially when you decide, hey, I need to lug this to the other side of Costa Rica because I like that better. And so you want to actually get established in that fundamental principle. Secondly, you want to have a powerful tool that will actually help you. And so I do recommend Quicken. I think Quicken is the best tool. It's actually helped me be able to not only budget to get here, but when I kind of lost my way, because I honestly did lose my why, it got me back on track to figure out, okay, this is what you need to do. This is what you need to change immediately, which honestly, in my particular case, I was house heavy as far as my budget was concerned. And I actually needed to make some drastic changes and find a different place to live. And so that was something that happened to me, and I'm always trying to impress upon people, when you get here, take a look at your budget and keep an eye on that, because moving into a different country is very exciting, and you'll have to have a different standard of life. In your old life, or in the life of the United States, it really was, just get a house and a car, and travel was maybe a once in a year event. But when you're moving to a different country and you're trying to see everything, traveling is a part of your, life. You may do that maybe 2 or 3 times a month, or maybe at least once a month, but you're trying to actually find different places to go. And so that expense definitely goes up. And so what you want to have is a tool that will show you, are you doing okay? Yes, you can go out to this restaurant and this hotel because it's very unique, and you want to be able to have those experiences versus just being in, 4 walls in the same place in your house. You want to actually be able to have some flexibility. So have a good tool, and Quicken, I do definitely recommend it. It actually has helped me a lot. Yes, I'd get paid if you click the link below, but honestly, I would be doing this for free because it really did. I have tried other tools, and none of the other tools can tell me how the future is going to look. And that is the thing that you need the most. You need to have the security that your future, your financial future, while you're getting things figured out, is okay and stable. Because that's the last thing you want to go wrong, that your finances run out before you figure it out. And so you want a tool that actually does the future. And honestly, I had been doing my research for the past few years, and I saw lots of tools that told me about my past spending, but nothing that really told me about my future spending until I found Quicken. And so I've been using that for the past 6 to 7 years. So let's get into the subject that we actually started with, location. where do you want to live in Costa Rica? Now, before you answer that, you need to figure out which each location actually has involved. And so what I mean by that is I'm talking about provinces. And so that is places like Guanacaste, which is, I don't know why it is, but it is very famous between those coming from the United States. Limon, you got Cartago, you have San Jose, which is not just where everybody thinks is downtown. It actually is a lot bigger than that. And you have Punta Arenas and you have Alajuela. And so you have these provinces. I hope I'm not missing it. Oh, Heredia. I almost missed one. You have these provinces, and each one of them has their benefits or whatever, pros and cons, depending on the way you look at it. If you are a beach person and you love the beach, which means you're going to take the beach no matter what. If it's too hot, if it's rainy, if it's sunny, if it's the waves are not there and you can't swim, whatever it is, you must still be there. Then you're going to be looking at your places like Limon, Guanacaste, Punta Arenas, and those areas. So you want to be near the beach. Now, ideally, if you like the beach, if you're a person like myself, you can actually, a lot of times, cut your costs and live more centralized. The reason why I like Central Valley in particular, which is, your Alajuela, your parts of San Jose. Again, San Jose is bigger than most people think. I can't speak too much about Cartago, but I've heard it's very pretty. It's just a little bit cooler. When I say those particular places, it's because it leads you access to a lot of different things. What do I mean by that? If you're trying to keep your costs down, you're trying to budget to live, you realize that, hey, I travel a lot. I'm going to take the bus. Okay, well, getting access directly to, the San Jose is awesome because it is the hub, and there's buses that go out to different places. Or you're like, I need to be near the airport. Well, again, you have two options. You could be in Guanacaste and be near that airport, or you can be more centralized where you have the airport and technically is in Alajuela, but we call it the San Jose airport, and still have access to all your fundamental things that are available in San Jose, Gracia, and different areas. And so those are the things that honestly will affect your costs. The other thing, when you're comparing Gracia, for example, to, let's say, San Jose, which is centralized, the cost is going to be a lot cheaper in Gracia than it would be, of course, in your busy areas. And I'm saying this in general. Costs do fluctuate, depends on the area. Same thing where I know Guanacaste is very famous for those coming from the States, but it does have its things where the cost is actually a little bit higher, or it could be a lot higher, depending on what you're looking for. And the closer you get to tourist areas like beaches and things like that, your cost is going to get higher. Now you're competing with Airbnbs and people coming that actually has the rent a little bit higher. Also, your utility bills, if you're not going to get accustomed to the high heats that Guanacaste, it is the hottest province that Costa Rica has. And if you're going to sit there with your air conditioner, you're going to be paying more utilities, higher utilities. And so in Gracia is not like that. It's honestly, when you want a place and you think you want it cooler, you generally move up to the mountains. But the thing about Gracia is you kind of have to like the mountains. You're in the mountains. So I honestly love the mountains. I'm from Ohio and it's flat. But so when I look at the mountains and I see valleys and different flowers that grow all year round, honestly, I love it. And when I'm ready to go to like a place like La Fortuna, I just jump on the bus. It's 2 hours away. Or if I'm going to go to Guanacaste, Limon, or Punta Arenas, Jaco, which is in Punta Arenas, I just do that. Those are the things that honestly that you have to budget for when you're living in Costa Rica. Another thing that affects your budget a lot when you're living in Costa Rica is your lifestyle. And so if you have the United States inflexible lifestyle, and I mean that in a way that you want the United States here in Central America, which that's not going to happen, you're going to actually have to pay for it. That means if you're trying to get things from the United States all the time, maybe you're shipping or the way that you're eating, going to restaurants every time because that was a habit that you formed in the United States, and you're under a budget, you're going to jeopardize that budget potentially, especially if you didn't budget for it. Now, if you budget for it, then good job. But if you're not even thinking about it, just like, oh, this is something that we do all the time in the United States, we're just going to mirror that over here. And so those things are going to, impact your budget drastically. There is no Amazon Prime that comes to your house every 2 hours and you get the best price. Things like that. Again, that part of that lifestyle living doesn't actually help you here in Costa Rica. Most of the time, honestly, if I would say if anything is very expensive in Costa Rica, it's trying to get electronics. You will pay considerably much more for your electronic things. And I'll just say that in general. So if you're like, oh, normally I just get this from Amazon, they ship it and I get the best deal and it comes from China. Yeah, that doesn't happen. And so your lifestyle, your spending habits, your eating habits, if you are not being able to be flexible with that and to be able to change those things, Costa Rica actually becomes very expensive, and that will actually impact your budget a lot. So the one thing that I want you guys to get about the video that is, yes, these are some of the fundamental things that you have to do. But to be quite honest, a lot of this requires some detail into looking at. And I know a lot of you try to DIY, but those of you who are looking for help, I do offer one-on-one service and a coaching program that'll actually help get you through a lot of these things that we're discussing. And the one-on-one is more particular to, what is your particular situation? Because while I'm giving you things in general, there are some things that, are specific to you that probably had to be tweaked before you get here, or things you have to consider. So this is one of those things that I want to actually help you guys with. So now that you know more about budgeting and living in Costa Rica, and you're interested okay, well, now I'm ready to understand more about shipping. Well, I want you to check this video out right here, because I have a conversation with Pablo, who actually does this for a living. He helps people to move from Costa Rica, or from the United States to Costa Rica. And honestly, back and forth, so it is both ways. But what he does, and the reason why I love talking to Pablo, is because he's authentic. And sometimes he'll say, yes, I may not get any business, but you shouldn't be doing this. So whether or not you should be shipping stuff, check this video right here to figure out if that's you, and I will see you on the other side.